evening. My name is Mike Sawchuk. I'm the Commissioner for the Department of Public Safety here in Maine. We truly do appreciate your patience and your partnership as we work with all of our partners across the law enforcement spectrum at all levels, local, state, county, and federal, to address and investigate these violent crimes that occurred in the city of Lewiston this evening. As you know, this is an experienced group. We won't have a lot of Q&A here this evening. This still is very fresh. It's new. It's new for all of us. And our focus is on the investigation and getting this right the first time. And we're doing that with our partners. And we do appreciate you putting out information from time to time. Moving forward, we would appreciate it if you got that information from us so that we knew that it was accurate. And that is incredibly important for all of us from an investigative standpoint and from a public safety standpoint, that we have a unified front with this information as we release it. The delay in coming here with you now is simply because we want to confirm information from our end. We want to make sure the information we're giving you and the information that goes out to the general public is accurate. So we do have some information here that we will release. It is here on the podium. And this is a general caution to the public. That approximately 6:56 this evening, a couple of shooting incidents occurred here with multiple casualties in the city of Lewiston. And police are currently searching for a Robert R. Card, 4/4 of 1983 of Bowdoin. Card is considered armed and dangerous. He is a person of interest, however, and that's what we'll label him at moving forward until that changes. If people see him, they should not approach Card or make contact with him in any way. The shelter-in-place order that currently stands in Lewiston remains. A vehicle, which was a vehicle of interest in this incident, was located in Lisbon, and we are now also asking residents in Lisbon to shelter in place. So please share that information with communities as well. If anybody sees Mr. Card or has any additional information reference to these two shootings in the city of Lewiston, please contact 911. If they see anything suspicious, please feel free to call their local authorities. We have literally hundreds of police officers working around the state of Maine to investigate this case, to locate Mr. Card, who again is a person of interest and a person of interest only. And we'll continue to gather information so that we can bring the suspect to justice and ultimately seek prosecution down the road. This release also includes a photo, which I believe I have seen, from various sources. I would also let you know that we have created a reunification location, and that would be at the Auburn Middle School, so in the neighboring community of Auburn, at 38 Falcon Drive. Again, that's the Auburn Middle School. And when I say reunification center or location, what that means is that if somebody has a question or they have a concern, they can't find a loved one, they believe that a friend or a family member may be involved in what occurred here tonight, in Lewiston, that they could respond to that location. We will have some of our behavioral health liaisons, counselors on site, and we'll also be providing information as it becomes available to us. As you can imagine, and as you know, there are multiple scenes in the city, to include multiple hospitals, multiple follow-ups, a lot of witnesses we're speaking with, and a lot of leads. The general public has been very cooperative and very forthcoming with information. So I would expect if we have additional information, we'll be happy to come back and share it with you. I know that from the city of Lewiston standpoint, probably going to close City Hall after this briefing and probably move everybody out. But again, we appreciate your partnership and your patience. I would offer to take questions just so you know that I probably won't have answers. And as long as you know that going in, there's no disrespect intended in that. Feel free to ask a couple, and if I think we can get there, then I'm happy to answer those. If not, we do have work to do on behalf of our communities, and that's our primary focus this evening.
There are many specific figures about casualties out there. Sheriff Sampson told me up as many as 20. I just wanted to give you the opportunity to set the record straight on that.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. And I know that there's been a lot of numbers out there. This is a very fluid situation. So the last thing I want to come up is give you a number and then 3 hours from now change that in one direction or another. So I don't have firm numbers on that. And when I do, we'll be happy to share those with you, because it's an important piece of healing and it's an important piece of information for all of us to be aware of. But I don't have a firm number on that.
But at least 16, right?
I think I just answered that question to say that I'm not going to give you any specific numbers. And there's been a lot of numbers all over the map all evening, and I don't think that that's helpful because it doesn't help family members. It certainly doesn't help the community to see, well, they just said this and they said that. So if you want accurate information, I'm prepared to give that to you when I have it. I don't have that right now.
Does the suspect have any known criminal history with law enforcement? And is he someone who's been on the radar of state police or local police, to your knowledge?
Well, Mr. Card, who we're speaking about right now, is a person of interest and a person of interest only, right? I'm not listing him as a suspect at this point, and we're not prepared to go into his background or anything else that we may be aware of. One more question?
You're only looking for one shooter, correct?
We're looking for this person of interest right now, and that's what we'll label and list and speak about at this particular moment. When we have additional information, I'm happy to share that. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Again, thank you for your time. And I know Assistant City Manager O'Malley will make arrangements, I think, to move everybody out of the building. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. These are the flyers that we were mentioning, so feel free to grab those. And we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you very much.
Well, not much new information there coming out of this latest update from Lewiston, Maine, regarding this mass shooting event that we have been covering for the last few hours. I hope that still we have on the line retired Lieutenant Randy. Randy, are you still there and able to speak with us?
I'm still here.
Perfect. So, Randy, what do you think about this latest update? First of all, so many questions, and I think I want to start with one of the basics when they say that Card is a person of interest and not a suspect. What is the determining factor when deciding that?
Well, you know, these are almost interchangeable terms now. I think we heard a little political speak there, where the individual who was addressing everyone was kind of covering himself by saying that he was a person of interest and not a suspect. Like I said, it's a kind of an obtuse term. We didn't learn much from that at all. The one thing I did glean from that was that the vehicle was found, and when I hear that word "found," that means to me that he's no longer operating that vehicle, and that's a little gem of information, because that means that he either acquired another vehicle, which is very possible, or he's out on foot, and that would, of course, limit the search range demonstrably. So there wasn't a whole lot of information that was given at that press conference.
Right now, what we're taking a look at is a live shot from outside of that medical center, the hospital, with a lot of the victims we're taking. More of a stagnant shot right now. We did see a lot of activity earlier in the day, a lot of officers moving through with a lot of gear, some guns being drawn. I want to talk about kind of how overwhelming this may be for investigators at this moment. So like you mentioned, not a lot of updates given, and that's just because there's so many different points to come through, so many witnesses to talk to. Tell me about this process now, because it is such a timely manner to find this person. How do you really narrow it down when there's so many witnesses, so many victims?
Well, that's the challenge here. You have multiple scenes, you have multiple locations where the individual has been spotted. You know, the vehicle was found apparently in a different town. So the question that I have is that, did he leave that vehicle there and then commit this atrocity from some other mode of transportation? Did he utilize the vehicle that was found at the where the murders took place, and then he dumped the car there? There's, you know, like I said, there's so many questions, but remember there's no more complicated an investigation than a mass shooting. You have multiple crime scenes. Every single one of these crime scenes, it has to be processed, and this isn't going to take hours. This is going to take days, possibly weeks. And this is one of the things that with the cooperation of different law enforcement agencies is so critical. The Federal Bureau of Investigation has one of the best crime scene analytical units in the country, and utilizing them will be really something that will help local law enforcement immeasurably, because local law enforcement simply is not equipped to deal with a massive array of crime scenes like this is. So you've got multiple crime scenes. You've got just incredible amounts of evidence that have to be safeguarded. Remember, if they do take him into custody, as opposed to if he dies by his own hand, or he dies, by in a gunfight with law enforcement, if this winds up to be a prosecution, then the meticulous work that has to be done at each of these scenes is incredibly important. So this is a massive challenge to law enforcement. And of course, there has to be command and control. Someone is running this scene. Usually it would be the jurisdiction that was the primary jurisdiction. So it could be the sheriff's office, it could be the police department. State police may have come in and said, we're going to take over. But the command and control of a massive scene like this is critical to the to get to the culmination that everybody wants, which is keeping the people safe and getting the suspect either in custody or killing him.
Lieutenant, let's get back to talking about the suspect a bit more, because earlier you were saying so many determining factors in where this investigation may go are really coming from who the suspect is and this end game of his, so to speak. Let's pull up this photo of him, 40-year-old Robert Card. So the latest information, I told you that he was a trained firearms instructor, believed to be in the Army Reserve. Well, also, while he was stationed, he reported, quote, hearing voices and threatened to shoot up the National Guard base where he was stationed. That is according to the sources. Again, what do you make of these new developments regarding this person of interest?
Well, that just added a really critical nuance to this situation. That means if he's been hearing voices, that's very often associated with schizophrenia. Schizophrenia, of course, is a major mental health issue. Many individuals who have been involved in mass murders have claimed to be hearing voices. Excuse me. Now you add the mental health component, and you have an individual who is not thinking rationally. Is now you have with a criminal that has an end game in mind. Then there are avenues to try and realize what that is and try to combat it. Now you add an individual who's hearing voices and has threatened to shoot up a place where he worked, that he was part of. Now you have a madman involved, and of course once again the price of poker has gone up again. So I'm really interested in knowing about his training, about his equipment, what he is. Does he have experience in mountain warfare? Is he a survivalist? Does he have the ability to hide out in the woods for months at a time? And so this manhunt could literally go on for days, and we've actually seen weeks when it comes down to people who have the training and the equipment to go out into the woods and hide out.
I want to keep on this tangent with this information from the person of interest, because according to law enforcement Card, this man you see here on your screen, the person that officers are looking for, he reported mental health issues, to include hearing those voices and threats to shoot up the National Guard. He also reported to have been committed to a mental health facility for 2 weeks during the summer of 2023 and subsequently released. So this was recent, where he was institutionalized, now back on the loose. What kind of protocol is this even to follow up, let's say, with somebody that was in the Army Reserve? Who is watching out for this individual? I know we talk a lot about the aftermath of these tragic events, but prevention is key, is it not?
Yeah, absolutely. And my question is he active reserves, or was he with the reserves and is no longer? Here's the part of about possessing firearms. You know, the laws state that if you have been committed, you know, for a mental issue into a facility, and you've been committed, well, you're not supposed to be possessing a firearm. And so now the question is, what were the protocols that were followed following his release from the institution, whatever institution that was? You know, once again, we have many more questions than we have answers to. But right now, the critical issue is this: locating him and neutralizing him. Whether that neutralization is through the use of force by law enforcement, or if it's taking him into custody, but neutralizing the threat. And that's law enforcement's main priority here. But while they are doing that, as he is still at large, he is still a threat, then every one of those officers that is on those different crime scenes is a target. And same thing with the citizens. They're in grave danger as well. So my advice to the citizens of Lewiston is to, if you have a firearm, keep it at the ready. If you don't, you might think about going to somebody's house that can protect that property. You know, this is one of those situations where this is do or die stuff. This is life and death situation. And we have an individual here who is a murderer, a mass murderer, who cares nothing about life, human life. And as long as he is at large, the public is at risk, and so is every law enforcement officer there.
Randy Sutton, retired field lieutenant with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police. I do appreciate your time here. You've been with us for the better part of the hour, breaking down the situation, an active situation in Maine, may I add. Multiple people killed in a mass shooting at 2 separate locations. We really appreciate your insight. We hope to check in with you soon. For now, we will let you go. We're going to continue covering this, however, for our viewers. But again, Randy Sutton, retired field lieutenant, thank you for taking the time to be with us.
Well, I appreciate that. And if any law enforcement officers who are at that scene, this is a very stressful situation. And I offer the services of the Wounded Blue. So if you're a law enforcement officer and you're on that scene and you're facing some struggles afterward, contact the Wounded Blue at thewoundedblue.org. We will be there to help.
We appreciate it again, all of this insight, and also help moving forward as we try to process this entire scenario tonight in Lewiston, Maine. I want to step away for our final break of the hour. When we come back, we're going to re-rack that presser from earlier today, an update from law enforcement out in Lewiston, Maine, telling us the latest in regards to this investigation. I'm going to pull up a photo of the person of interest at this hour. It is 40-year-old Robert Card. Multiple people killed in a mass shooting incident at 2 separate locations. And of course, law enforcement reluctant to release the exact number. We're going to play back those remarks when we come back.